don't understand why you're 40 years old playing the game still. So.
Well, I mean, what game do you think you're going to be playing when you're 40? When do you think you're going to stop playing games? What's the age? What's the age? What's the cutoff age?
When you're out of high school and college.
You're a high school kid?
Yeah, I'm in high school. Yeah.
How old are you?
Why does it matter?
Well, I mean, you foresee yourself in the future quitting something you love, like video games? Do you not love video games? You just cruise through it.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time when you're that old. But...
Well, how do you know? You're not old yet. I mean, I can think of probably reasons that video games would be a waste of time for a high school kid, too. Do you have a 4.0? Are you in honor classes to get more than a 4.0?
No, but...
You know what I'm saying? There's more things you could be doing to improve your life than playing video games, too, right?
Yeah, you can study and not play games.
Hey, just recreation, man. Having fun. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right, then.
Hello. Oh, I'm starting the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Weekend Culture. My name is Brian, and I am here with John, the problematic white guy, and we're going to be talking about the news of the week. Now, I know whenever it comes down to when I do this weekly show, it seems like I'm covering a bunch of stuff that's already been covered by other content creators. So this is why I try to put a slightly different spin on it, or at least look at it from another perspective, or try to dig a little bit deeper into the stories, look at something larger that is at play or potentially at play. So I hope that you guys are willing to sit down with us while we talk about these things. And I appreciate your kind attention as we go through this stuff. I care tremendously about this culture, and I do think that we have to have honest conversations about the culture itself if we're going to see it improve. So greetings to everybody. Welcome to the show. I already see a comment from Furious Dan. Retro Overkill. What's up, guys? Came here to give a like and say hello. Thank you, Furious Jan. Really appreciate it. Yes, hitting like on the video is very, very helpful. Even a dislike is good. I mean, doesn't matter. Either way, it's... Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Dan. And if you ever want to be a guest on my humble little channel, Honey Badger Arcade, let me know. Leave me a comment or message me. I'm on the Discord server as well at Honey Badger Arcade. Okay. So I guess we could just jump into the stories. We have a few things to cover, kind of a packed show, but I like the theme that I'm seeing here. The theme that I'm seeing here is that despite what the media says, despite what the activists say, despite what the game devs say over the AAA studios and the corporate bell ends say, we are winning. We are winning with our dollars. That is to say, we are winning by holding on to our money and making educated decisions and having honest conversations. And everything that these people do at this point is just cope. It's just cope. And I'm going to get into that in a moment. But first, let's look at the absolute state of Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers, as far as their video game division goes, they have been experiencing a lot of fails. A lot of it has come in the form of live service games. I can already think of 3 right off the top of my head that were live service. One is Mortal Kombat 1, which I believe is a live service game. The other one is what was that? And also there is the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That's another Warner Brothers project. Live service game, complete failure. And now Multiverses has joined the ranks of games that Warner Brothers could not maintain. As of yesterday, Warner Brothers announced the permanent shutdown of Multiverses, with the game servers set to go offline on May 30th, 2025. So that's in a couple of months. Initially launched in open beta in July of 2022, Multiverses experienced a significant decline in player engagement, dropping from a peak of 153,000 153,433 concurrent players to just 648 players by the time of the shutdown announcement. The game was intended to be a competitor to Nintendo's Super Smash Bros., featuring a crossover of Warner Brothers characters, but struggled with several issues. So Despite so I'll list the issues they have, and then I can tell you about because I actually downloaded the game. It's free to play. You can still play it now. And I played it for a while, and I have my own thoughts on it, but I do think that this was going to happen. So one was declining player interest. Despite a strong start, player numbers fell dramatically, leading to the game's eventual shutdown. Second, the monetization and gameplay issues. Criticism focused on the game's monetization model, progression system, and technical issues like netcode and matchmaking. These factors contributed to the game's inability to maintain a consistent player base. Financial underperformance. Warner Brothers Discovery acknowledged the game's underperformance, which led to significant financial write-down, adding to the decision to cease development and operations. And the last update, Season 5, was set to run from February 4th until the shutdown. This update would introduce new characters like Aquaman and Lola Bunny, but it would be the game's final content update. Post-shutdown, players would still have access to an offline mode for local matches against AI, but online multiplayer would be discontinued. The decision to shut this down reflects basically the issues with these sort of free-to-play and live service games. Now, I just want to say before we get into it more, I did download Multiverses. I didn't think it was ever going to beat Smash Brothers, but I thought it would be a decent alternative for people who didn't own Nintendo consoles. But I think that where they messed up is they did not support the game enough. I don't think live service games are impossible to do well, but I think Warner Brothers screwed this one up. And they did because they did not give people what they were hoping to get. So, Multiverses is a Smash Brothers style fighting game, up to 4 players. I streamed a couple of episodes on my channel to try it out. And the one thing that what I noticed right off the bat was some of the very strange decisions made by Warner Brothers in terms of the roster. So like a fighting game is only as good as its roster. If the roster of characters are not appealing and unique and popular, then it's not going to work. It's one of the reasons why I believe Street Fighter V underperformed compared to Street Fighter 4, as an example. It's also one of the reasons why I think every time a new Tekken comes out, they usually keep all of the most popular characters and then maybe add new ones as it goes on. And I think with Tekken 8, they kind of dropped the ball on that as well. And Mortal Kombat probably suffers from the same thing. So with Smash Brothers, almost every character available in Smash Brothers is popular, well-known, iconic in their own way. With Multiverses, they made these weird choices. Like, for example, they had some interesting things where, you had like Velma and Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. You had Bugs Bunny and the Tasmanian Devil and Marvin the Martian. These are staple Warner Brothers characters. But then there were strange additions like, Shazam, Shazam, not Shazam, I'm sorry, Black Adam. Yeah, so yes. Yeah. Yeah. Zering says Mortal Kombat also dropped the sultry wardrobe for female characters in later games. Yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, like we're talking about just in the terms of like how do you do a successful? Oh, they said they can't hear you, John. I'm sorry. I gotta fix that. Give me a second. No, it's not. It's not your fault. It's okay. Go ahead. Now they should be able to hear
okay.
you.
Oh, now I
Alright.
can say my thing about.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You have till the end of the game cycle to get this if you're a furry fan, because they're gonna put Lola Bunny in there. So
There you go.
Cheesecake, get you a free game.
Yes, again, that's a really. I think that there are if you're gonna do a fighting game that's based in like properties, you have to. I think you should start with the strongest, most popular characters for your roster in those properties. Putting Black Adam in there and then doing a tie-in with the movie featuring The Rock that nobody watched. That's
Right.
I thought, well, okay, you're doing cross promotion. I get it, right? your Warner Brothers though, like you could have put in, you know, I wouldn't have gone with Black Adam. I would have gone Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman for the superhero stuff. I would have gone, you know, do the whole Scooby Gang, do all of the popular Looney Tunes. Give us Daffy Duck, give us Bugs Bunny, give us Elmer Fudd, Porky Pig. Throw them all in there because throw in the Animaniacs, throw in Dexter. You know,
They could have got V from Cyberpunk, or you know, even like Johnny Silverhand.
Well, yeah, I guess they could have. I don't know if Warner Brothers owns that.
Well, they're definitely they're heavily involved in it because there's like a whole bunch of Warner Brothers stuff in there. They did
put in Agent Smith. So Agent Smith was in it, but then there was like Beetlejuice, and this is where I think they were running into problems. Okay, Warner Brothers' problem was they were treating their game as a marketing tool more than a game. So it was like this: we're gonna put the characters from our properties in here, and we're gonna use that to drive traffic towards those properties, without considering that a lot of the decisions they were making were very strange. Like to put in Gizmo and Stripe from the Gremlins movie. Now, look, I watched the Gremlins movie when I was a kid, but most people, like these young people, they don't have any idea who those characters are. So it won't work. You have to look at, like, you have to at least pick from the stuff that's going to do the best. So and Banana Guard from Adventure Time, really? So the first mistake was that they were all over the place in terms of their choices for the roster. The second mistake was they thought of the game as a means to sell other products. Like, oh, do you like look, the new Beetlejuice movie's coming out, and it just so happens that he's in the game. This is what they did, right? They also did that with Black Adam. Well, nobody else watched it, but maybe now that you get to play as Black Adam, you'll want to watch the movie. It wasn't going to work. And then the third thing is, and this was probably the most important thing, is that they didn't update the game very much. So the thing about live service games is you have to keep people engaged and interested. Okay, like there's a couple of examples of good live service games. Marvel Rivals, yes,
coming out of the gate.
I was gonna say, definitely. Marvel Rivals came out with 30-something heroes right off the bat. Most of them, if not all of them, but I would say most of them are very well known, with a couple of exceptions, so that people know, oh, I know who Venom is, I know who Spider-Man is, I know who Magneto is, right? Wolverine,
Captain
the Hulk,
America.
Captain America, Iron Man, Thor. Like you can't get these wrong. Like these are already based in very successful and well-known properties. Plus, there was a lot of content right off the bat, and there are no pay-to-win mechanics. The only thing that you could potentially spend money on, if you really wanted to, would be all about cosmetics, like outfits and stuff like that. I haven't spent a dime on that game at all, and you know, but most of it is they are constantly keeping things. There is like a momentum to it, right? Where there's more content coming out. If you're going to do live service, you have to do that. Another good example is Helldivers 2, and I will say the way that they do it is a little bit different, because not only are they constantly releasing new, what do you call it? They're like, I don't want to call them battle passes.
They're war bonds?
War bonds, yeah. They're constantly releasing new war bonds, which feature new weapons, new stratagems, new armors, new aesthetics, and all of this can be earned in-game without spending any actual money. But more than that, it's almost like they're managing a living, they want the galaxy in the setting to feel alive. So they're constantly moving things around. Like every single day in that game, there are new things happening on different worlds that you have to, so there'll be like a new objective, a new mission. Oh, the Terminids are moving in on this territory. The automatons are doing this thing. The Illuminate are doing this thing. And it's a constant thing, and everyone is participating in it. So that is it's almost like you're playing in an MMO, but it doesn't have the monthly fee or any of the other stuff. Yeah. But you're just doing the missions, and the game setting has changed, not in permanent ways. Like there was like, they did this thing where you had to destroy a planet by turning it into a black hole, because there was going to be like a massive Terminid infestation. There was another event where you had to build a space station, and they did it. Like I don't even log in like every day. I log in maybe every few days, and I do like one or two missions and I get off. But people who are on there, the world is what I'm saying is the world is constantly changing. So a live service game, I think, almost has to act like that. It has to be constantly evolving, and I do think that there are ways to do it well.
The name. You know, it has to be alive.
Yeah, exactly. It has to feel like it's alive, right?
So,
or Norwegian said they could have added Freakazoid. That'd be perfect. He'd be perfect for a cartoon game. Yes. Well, again, I think Warner Brothers got there. They were, I think they were, I would bet you that this was a case of too many chefs in the kitchen. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. Yeah.
Right. And if you're going to make a game that's going to try to compete with, you know, the likes of Smash Brothers, then, you know, rather than doing these focused marketing groups like they like to do, where they go and like recruit people that fit a certain ideological profile, go get some teenagers. Let them actually play your game. Because if you're going to think that like, oh, we want something that plays to the kids, then, you know, find out what kids like. Because it's not these 30, 40, 50-year-old properties that give two shits less about them. And the people that make them now are so caught up in like all their weird activism and stupid shit like that, which we'll get into later on one of our other stories. You know, it's just it's a recipe for disaster. It's not sustainable, you know, like, and this is just kind of one of those things where you can look at it. It's right there. It flatlined, you know, like that is not a good heartbeat for something that's supposed to be alive.
Yeah, it's not doing so well. The I think that there one of the other things too is that culturally speaking, there isn't much to draw from to make like when I look at what's in multiverses, a lot of it is stuff from my childhood, and that's kind of sad because I'm not a child, so I shouldn't be the target, right? You know what I mean? And so what does this mean? Well, I think part of it, what it means is that there isn't a lot of content that exists for children today that could have made that leap, right? I mean, a lot of it is either just carrying over from when I was young, like some new Transformers thing, for example, as just a random example. But there's nothing that has like stood the test of time in the same way that what they're putting in, like that doesn't exist now. And I wonder how much of that has to do with the fact that people aren't having as many kids as they used to. So if there aren't as many kids, then there isn't as much stuff for kids. So what can they draw from? You know?
Yeah, I guess they're hinging their bets that like, you know, the world is full of like, you know, a whole bunch of overgrown children that all just kind of peaked out at the age 13 and they've just been getting older ever since. But
that is something that could be the case.
But that's not like, you know, it's not something that is really a viable form of, you know, like, especially if you're trying to make a game based around monetization. I understand you'll probably want to try to skew a little bit older because older people tend to have money, but we're also living in a time of like, you know, so much financial debasement through inflation that you really have to have something that's great to get people to actually put their gaming dollars into it these days. And just kind of being a mediocre also ran, you know, in the vein of like, oh, well, it's kind of like the proliferation of boy bands in the late 90s, you know, like really ultimately, I'm sure there are people tell me there's some kind of nuanced sophistication and difference between like Backstreet Boys and 98 Degrees and NSYNC and Menudo, all these kinds of stupid things, right? But it's, every corporation just has their copy of a copy of a copy of a copy until, you know, it just kind of all bleeds into like one big meh kind of smudge. And that's what this is to me. You know, like I look at it and just like, oh, okay, I guess it's free to play. So maybe with the offline side of it, I might see if it's available for Steam and maybe just have it as like one of those games that I can do, you know, co-op play now, or not co-op play, but like I think it's like
local. You can play local offline, which probably is like that's not terrible. Like I could, you know,
I will
still
say
be free. Why not, right?
Yeah, and I will say at least to their benefit, they are at least doing that. But after its final day, that's all, folks. Like you're not even going to be able to download this thing after the end of May. Once it's over and done with, that's it. So like this is your last chance opportunity, I guess, to download it for free. Not worry about like, you know, because they already shut off the monetization currencies and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of characters that aren't even accessible now, which, it's limping to the finish line. Like it's already dead, but it's a dead man walking because they just have to get this last update so they can say that they technically supported it, through season 5 and carry it all the way to the end. But what's the purpose? Even at this point in time, and I mean, like I say, you kind of get a free game if you have some friends that you can do local co-op play or versus, but even in that, it's probably just, Smash Brothers. It exists. Why?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a Nintendo,
I suppose
I could see that, but it nonetheless, yeah, it had no hope of competing. A lot of people have tried competing with Smash Brothers with different kinds of knockoffs. Sony did one, was a PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. I remember there was a Kung Fu Panda Smash Brothers game. A lot of people have tried it. It doesn't compare. But I think Warner Brothers could have competed, but they just did it. They went about it all wrong. They too slow. They had too many issues with it. It didn't have enough pizzazz. A lot of weird character choices, so they were going to fail. And the thing is that Warner Brothers has been struggling in a number of ways. So the overall theme of this is large organizations are starting to feel like the ping of all of their bad decisions, and it's causing them to some suffering. I don't know if they're going to recover. I'm not going to say that they're done. I mean, I did write they're cooked in the title, but that doesn't mean they can't fix things. But I don't see that happening without much more suffering. So they're going to be Warner Brothers lost they're trying to revitalize their Arkham franchise, but with the Suicide Squad being the catastrophic failure that it is, that's probably not going to come back. The new Superman movie does not seem to impress anyone, so that's another one of their properties. The Harry Potter stuff is paused now because the audience that they were courting hates them because of transphobia. The Lord of the Rings, they killed that with all of the crap that they've added on to the Rings of Power and the Rohirrim thing. So all of their properties are in dire straits, and they're just releasing flop after flop. Not much better than Disney. And this is what they've squandered. Remember that last Matrix film? What the hell was that about?
God.
So yeah, just it's a shame, but maybe this is the ship. What has to happen for the ship to correct itself? So
yeah.
And now let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I'm going to move on to the next story. We're going to be talking about Bioware and EA. This is another story of absolute trash fire failure. So Bioware recently, the renowned studio behind games like Dragon Age, Mass Effect, has undergone significant restructuring by its parent company, Electronic Arts. Here's a summary based on their latest information. So Bioware announced a restructuring of their staff, with EA moving developers to other projects within the company. However, several developers, including key figures like Trick Weeks and Karen Weeks, confirmed that they were laid off. This restructuring came in the wake of the underperformance of Dragon Age The Veilguard, which did not meet sales expectations, which I think it made half of what they were projecting, leading to a shift in focus entirely towards Mass Effect 5. This is literally their Hail Mary play, guys.
Yeah, engagement bucks and exposure dollars only get you so far in this world, and that's the whole thing they were even trying to do, which is the sad thing is this idea that they talk about engagements now. It's kind of like that whole thing where they talk about so many minutes watched on streaming services. What the fuck does that even mean? It's you're not actually tracking anything about quality. It's all these stupid quantitative kind of measures that just go to show people that ultimately you don't have something that is resounding. Because when you sit here and say billions of minutes watched, or all this,
that's a measure of success, right? Yeah,
right. And this, they were just trying to get enough engagement that they keep their funding model in place, and that's all this is. Is just this is a weird dog and pony show for revenue and investment through all their different kind of systems. And so they have to show that, well, people are engaged with it. It's yeah, but did it sell? but they're engaged.
Mhm.
I don't give a shit if they're engaged. Like, you know, like people get engaged all the time, they never end up getting married. You know, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the situation here. It's like, you know, like you want people to actually like, you know, buy the thing, not just have engagement with it, because everybody laughing about the Veilguard led to exactly what should have happened. Because in this story that we're covering, all these people that are ranting and raving that they lost their jobs all seem to have Blue Sky accounts.
Oh, that's where we found out that they got laid off, because they thought for some reason that Blue Sky was some kind of protected social media site. So they would go there and say, I got laid off. And then, like, you know, we would say, oh, look, they're saying they got laid off. And they're like, no, what are you doing on Blue Sky? That was our space.
Right.
I mean, I'm not on Blue Sky, but like, if you put your shit out there, we're going to see it. So, okay. So reports indicate that at least a few dozen employees have lost their jobs, with concerns among remaining staff about additional layoffs in the near future. The exact number of layoffs isn't specified by EA, but it's clear that this restructuring has resulted in significant job losses. Crimea River, though, because like we warned, and people are still caping and coping over this, that if they went this way, you were going to lose your core fan base. Like, you lost the Dragon Age fan base. You lost them. Like, and they would probably have like put up with whatever, because they did. I know that not all of the games in the Dragon Age, you know, franchise are great. I think it's like Origins is good, and then there was 2, which was there was 2, and then there was Inquisition, right?
Yeah,
so
Inquisition seems to be the high note.
Yeah, Inquisition.
In terms of sales.
Well, and yeah, I don't know. I didn't play them all, but I know that it's a little bit checkered. Like, they're not all great. But, you know, Origins was like really great. It was like what started it for people. I mean, I personally thought it was just okay. But, and then there was 2, which was more combat, less RPG. That was one of the things people didn't like about it. It was more like an action game. And then there was Inquisition, which I don't know anything about, but I guess that was a really good one. And now there's Veilguard. So, and Veilguard's like the worst one from what I can tell. The worst. Like, the problems with 2 were more mechanical than anything else. But what they don't like about Veilguard is the writing, the you know, the story, the weird, like, anachronistic content, like things about non-binary and top surgery scars, things that just don't make sense.
In the reality that they're like writing about. There's no
the setting that they made. I exactly. It's like obviously modern, you know, like modern crap crammed into this game. That it's obviously that. So anyway, EA statements. EA has been somewhat vague in its public statements, emphasizing that Bioware has the, quote, right number of people in the right roles, end quote, for the current stage of Mass Effect 5 development, without providing specifics on the layoffs. However, the company has acknowledged moving staff to other projects within EA where possible. That's just damage control. They're basically like, dude, we promise you Mass Effect 5 is going to be good. Remember Mass Effect Andromeda? My face is tired. Don't forget that, okay?
Right.
Community and industry reaction. The gaming community and industry commentators have expressed disappointment over the layoffs, especially given BioWare's history of producing critically acclaimed games. That's gone, bro. There's a call for better treatment of developers in the industry, highlighting the human impact of such corporate decisions. So,
I'll be honest. The one good thing about this is I applaud the layoffs, because it's the writing staff. Like the entire writing staff for Failhard is completely gone. So sorry, so sad. Go find something else to do. Take a walk.
Yeah, they need better writers. They need to stop hiring, you know, freaking fan fiction writers off of Tumblr, and get like real writers that understand story structure and understand the property they're adapting. And they need better art directors. They need better. They don't this like attempt at realism, this creepy shit that we're looking at right now, that has to go. They have to look at something more stylized, more attractive, yes, dare I say, hot, and put that in the game. That's you just have to, guys. Like, make it attractive. Beauty is truth, you know?
Well, you know, to Coringe the Minge Bush, this is attractive. You know?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
You know, so that's your big issue here, is like you got these people that are so led by their agendas and their ideologies that they just can't understand that, people play games for escapism. I want to go to a reality that has nothing to do with the modern American day politics. And globally speaking, most people don't give a shit about all the stupid craziness we get caught up in here. They find it beyond laughable, and it's repugnant and repulsive and just completely irrelevant. And the sales numbers show that. Or the lack of sales, rather.
Yep. So I think BioWare is hanging by a thread now. If Mass Effect 5 doesn't blow people's minds with how amazing it is, I think that's going to be the end of that studio.
Yeah, I've been calling.
I hear a lot of the people who used to work there, like some of the ones that used to work at CD Projekt Red, for example. I think they've gone to start their own studios.
Their own things. Yep.
Yeah, do their own thing.
Yeah, I got the new GDC State of Gaming report because I run Problematic Productions that does statistical analytic studies is what we do at Problematic Productions. So I get all these mailers from GDC because I like to see what their weird fuckery is all about. And currently, the majority of industry workers in AAA settings have all had less than 10 years experience. Most of them within the last 5, since COVID Hell World, really kind of tainted the whole soup by, just pissing in it with all of its silly fuckeries and vagaries of, how important this thing is and all this kind of stupid bullshit. It's just this is not why people play games. It's never going to be. And when you're playing to the lowest segment of society, don't be surprised when you kind of have a mainstream fall off, because that's not who you're actually even trying to cater to. And, get out of this idea of consumer lifestyle models and all this kind of stuff. Just make things that are good, make things that people would want to buy. It's not really that hard, It's laughable what this whole thing is. And, as far as, the next game coming out, I've been calling it Mass Extinction because that's what it is. This is the end.
Oh yeah.
I don't see it being the thing to turn things around.
No, I don't see that either. So BioWare has it doesn't look good for them. I'm sorry guys. It might be over for BioWare bros. But that's also going to be a big problem for Electronic Arts itself, because this is yet another in a series of issues that EA has had going back to Anthem, maybe even before that. I remember Star Wars Battlefront being a giant mess, and some of it has to do with some of the people they brought on board that sort of prioritize monetizing games in unreasonable ways. But even when those games, because I believe that even Dragon Age: The Veilguard was going to be a live service game or something that would be expanded on, but they never got to that point, and they don't have any plans on adding anything else to it right now.
Yeah, they were hedging their bets on Anthem being the new hotness, and then they were going to apply the formula and do the skin job kind of business that they like to do in most gaming studios these days, where they come up with a blueprint, and then they just go, all right, well, let's paint this in the shade of Dragon Age. And then, Anthem being the complete utter dud that it was, they completely and it made a wise move at that point in time, said, you know what, maybe we shouldn't do that. But then they just started chasing after, more successful properties, and ultimately ended up with a God of War clone that, kind of completely lost for as much as this game is about identity politics issues and things like that, they had their own identity crisis. You're fucking Dragon Age. You're not God of War. You're not any of this other stupid shit. So maybe just focus on what you are, from inception, rather than just try to change it somewhere along the way, because that's not how you feel you are today. Because it's not about you as a creator. Do you put part of yourself into a creation? Sure, but ultimately, if you're trying to communicate with other people kind of like to actually have a little bit of give and take in conversations. They like to actually kind of have an exchange. And when it's all just you monologuing and just kind of spouting off this diatribistic bullshit that's, just all too just neurotic and narcissistic and just like, come look at me, I'm so special.
Mm-hmm.
That drives people away. Does the exact opposite.
Yep. So how has this impacted this issue with Dragon Age of Veilguard? How has this impacted Electronic Arts in general, considering all of the other setbacks that they've had? So the underperformance of Dragon Age of Veilguard and subsequent layoffs at Bioware have had direct impact on EA's financial outlook. The company had to lower its revenue forecast for the fiscal year due to disappointing sales from not only Veilguard, but also EA Sports FC 25. That's a sports game. I don't know. This resulted in a significant drop in EA's stock price, with reports indicating a decline of nearly 20% in share value shortly after the announcement of the game's failure to meet expectations. Posts on X and web articles highlighted EA stock falling by around 17 to 20% following the news, erasing billions in market value and hitting a 12-month low. It's going to be a bad quarter for them. The layoffs and game failures have contributed to a tarnished reputation, with much of the criticism focused on EA's handling of Bioware, a studio known for its narrative-driven games. The move away from what fans perceived as Bioware's core strengths into more commercially driven or controversial directions have led to backlash. What's been EA's strategic response is to streamline their operations, like firing a bunch of people, focusing on projects with a higher probability of success or that align better with current market trends. This includes moving staff to other roles within EA and emphasizing franchises like Mass Effect that have a strong established franchise or fan base rather, but also carry the risk of failure if not executed well. Yes, it does. The restructuring of Bioware, moving developers to other EA projects, is part of a broader strategy to mitigate financial losses and leverage existing talent more effectively across the company. So what are other setbacks do we have here? So EA Sports, I already mentioned, it's a football franchise that also fell short of expectations. And this also, I don't play football video games, but I do understand that the sports games are more milked for things like microtransactions and updates, because the actual real life football season changes, players move here or there, and new people get added. So they basically see that as, oh, this is just DLC. This is just season passes, and we're just going to use it. And I guess the people who play those games, they're not responding well to that.
Well, that's the other issue too, is they applied that model for gaming in the broad sense to what happens in the sports world, and they kind of thought, hey, we can just go and do roster update kind of stuff that we've done in our sports franchises to game series, and this is industry wide, and so it's like when you treat things that actually are supposed to have like lore and a contextual narrative that actually is about something, going and it's like looking at, even though this is a different company, Ubisoft with their Assassin's Creed is basically the John Madden of action adventure games, and it's just like it completely lost its identity. And we're about to see and I guess March is we're going to sell this turd date for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Nobody even cares about Assassin's Creed at this point in time, because even what they tried to spin it to is not even being, adhered to in an actual meaningful sense. Like there's no relevance to the context of what was going on in the history or anything like that. And to get it back on this, like Dragon Age has like an actual contextual narrative that spans thousands of years, things like that, and so why Top Scars? Where's the Transing Center? Yeah,
I know. It's crazy. So somebody said, it was like Robert Johnson, aren't the talented people from Bioware that left currently working on a game called Exodus, or am I mistaken? No, a lot of people have left and they're starting like other projects with smaller companies. I think that the main issue with these big developers, it's the same issues with Hollywood. There's like a saying is that if you have too many writers working on Schindler's List, it's going to have a talking dog in it. And that's because everyone's input is expected to be like treated as equally valuable to everyone else's, and not everyone is on the same page. Smaller dev teams, just like smaller, showrunners or smaller groups of film producers, they're going to produce a better product because they are more like involved. There's fewer people, so there's not as many egos clashing, and they can be a lot more agile and adaptable to changes. I've been doing a series of interviews. I try to do one every week with indie devs and their little projects, and they're all working on fantastic things, but it's a very small team. It's like 2 guys, 6 guys, and of course they're all just like focused on the game. They're not cramming their ego into everything. They're not making it about them. They're not solipsistic. They're not, brain rotted from TDS. They're just guys that want to make good games. And I think that if you have a smaller team, you're just going to do a lot better. And I think that these guys that maybe they started small and over time their franchise became massive, and they probably got to a point where they said, this doesn't look like the thing that I started anymore because of how many people are involved. And it is going to dilute it,
Yeah, and the more people you get in there, the more you tend to try to homogenize things because you don't want to offend anybody. And
that's where the toxic positivity comes from.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that aspect of just trying to make everything for everyone and investing hundreds of millions of dollars into these things, it's like at a certain point in time, it's like, who is this thing that you're investing all this money made for? And it's made for no one specifically. So you're not actually going to even have like a core fan base of people that will go and say, oh, you really got to check this thing out. That's another thing. You made a good point about the money, because they spend so much money on stuff and you don't really see the dollar amount. Like, how much did Veilguard cost before marketing? Something like $400 million. That's the advertised amount.
Yeah, I mean,
it's probably closer to $1 billion when you factor in like how long the development cycle went, and they're able to when they reset their development cycles, they'll reset the money counter.
Right. And it's just like when they did the same thing with these movies, right? They reshoot things, they take stuff out, they add new stuff in, and it just extends how long it takes to get it done, and it costs more money. And it inevitably leads to disaster, because there's no way, like the new Captain America, Captain Falcon, Captain America, Brave New World comes out in like a week or something. I don't even know. And unless that movie makes $1 billion, it's a failure. Because of how much they spent on it. And I guarantee you, it's not going to make $1 billion.
Even if it makes $1 billion, they'll be able to get like a sandwich of profit.
Yeah, but I'm saying like it won't. It's not even going to get close. Like that's a failure. It's already a fail. No one wants to watch it. So
they effectively filmed a trilogy worth of movies to not even be able to make one cohesive thing, and then on top of that, you have all the stupid fuckery of not being able to get their stars to just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and that's
like actually say things that are supportive.
Yeah, and that's just like purely incompetence. Like they have so much money, they don't think they don't think about how much it costs to make a mistake. So they don't care. So they just kind of steamroll over everything. And this is what's going on in gaming too. And I've been saying this forever, like for years and years and years, is that video game developers, they have to make if it tells a story, that's fine. But they have to stop trying to make their video games like movies. They like make them games first. Trust me, it's worth it. I just did a interview with a guy working on a game called Knight's Path, and we didn't get really into it, but he's doing like a historically grounded medieval action RPG, and it looks really good. And the only thing that's available as a demo, and I would say look it up, it's called Knight's Path: The Tournament. The only thing that the demo is about is the combat system. Because he's like, if I don't have a good combat system, it doesn't matter how good my story is. And I'm like, yes, exactly. You have to have who's going to play it if it doesn't play well, right?
Right. And to that point, you look at something as successful as the Metal Gear series. Most people give 2 shits less about like the weird, convoluted kind of story. I love it myself, because I think that there's more honesty in fiction than there is truth in the news. And I think that it really gets into kind of like the weird, nitpicky bullshit of geopolitical kind of fuckery that actually takes place, but it's got a solid gameplay loop, and people actually just enjoy doing the combat sections, and they give a toss about the actual story stuff. And like even in my own experience, when when we put together the design doc for Havensfall, which Dan can attest to, when I was in art school, our game originally was built around the idea of extreme sports, like doing halo jumping and things like that, and like wearing like the wingsuits and all that kind of stuff. And from there, it evolved with all my weird kind of thoughts about transhumanism and where the world was going to be ending up because of where I saw technology kind of evolving. But ultimately, we wanted something that was like, look, if you want to get into this thing and really, really enjoy it and find out, like, as I said, all the nitpicky bullshit and like, the weird kind of, stuff that goes into the lore, the writing, then you'll do that. But you'll only do that because you enjoy playing the game so much and having the visceral experience of like, climbing walls and like, smacking people in the head with climbing, like, God, I can't remember the name of the thing. But it's kind of like God of War, how he had like the chain blades. We were going to have something in there where, like rock climbers, they use these tools that's kind of like it's kind of like an axe or a hammer or something like that. And you're going to be able to use that to just smash people's heads in. And like, like it had like independent hand control. So you could smack somebody in the head with like, the axe in your left hand and then like shoot them in the face with your right hand, like all this kind of stuff. And it was just built around the idea of just giving people something that they hadn't had, and was just like insanely just active and viscerally intense. And and then beyond that, that's where you kind of get into, oh, well, we can make a story that's kind of about this stuff, but it's really about like the nature of the gameplay itself that's going to be the thing that feeds a interactive play dynamic. Nobody cares about like your story. It's nice, but nobody really cares. They just want a good game that plays well.
Yeah, I mean, well, that comes first, right? Like, you look at the really great arcade games back in when video games were first, sort of like breaking ground. Most of them didn't really have a story. They just had enough of a premise to like explain what you're doing, and that was it. Yeah. Like, what's the story to Tetris? And yet it's still one of the most popular games. It's almost like the gameplay matters more, right? And you can tell a good story, but like people are not going to be interested if there's no game there. And I think that a lot of the people who are in the industry now that are getting paid, and these massive overblown budgets are people who they don't like video games, but they like writing. And so they're basically like, oh, well, I guess this is where it has to be. Just like the journalists, they have no interest in writing about video games because they don't like video games, but they do have an interest in talking about themselves and their activism and their identity and all of that. And which brings me to the next story. So Alyssa Mercante is back in the news, and I thought this was worth mentioning because I want to speak something else regarding this. So it's not really about her, but this is an example. She's really just the latest iteration of Anita Sarkeesian, and there will be someone else after her. It won't matter. Like, this is always going to be a thing, and it's probably almost always going to be a woman too. But anyway. Alyssa Mercante,
when we get into this story, there's going to be an interesting thing. So I just want everybody to pay attention to what she's wearing, and I'll mention it when we get to the shirt that she's wearing. Because when we go through the article, there's a tweet in there. She's wearing the exact same shirt.
I know the one. I have the tweet up ready. I have it ready. But anyway, So go ahead.
This is evidently the shirt she wears when she decides to make a clown of herself, is all I'm getting from
it. It does seem to be. So you guys might know Alyssa Mercante was a former gaming journalist over at Kotaku. And she is embroiled in a lawsuit where she is attempting to sue content creator Smash JT, right? Who I often cite in my when I do citations of articles. I usually go to Fandom Pulse, Smash JT, That Park Place, and Bounding into Comics. Those are my primary go-to sources, and X, I guess. But anyway,
I actually have a slight intersection in that lawsuit now, just ever so slightly, because of this, and the story that we did on her interview with Taylor Lorenz, where I was talking about what happened at the minute 28 mark. I actually. JT was he was in our chat over on Will of the Fans earlier this week when we were talking about this as well on Tuesday. And I mentioned to him specifically, I said, hey, along with all this debacle that takes place here that we're going to talk about, make sure that you also have your lawyer go look at the interview that happened a week after the lawsuit happened, where they specifically note basically that they went after Smash JT because ultimately he was the most accessible, because, Will of the Fans and Ryan, they live out of the country, so you can't do anything with them. Nobody knows who Hypnotic is, and like they really couldn't go after any of the other people there because they're people of color and things like that. And so they settled upon JT because he was quote unquote the problematic white guy who seemed like he would be ripe for the picking to do this move towards censorship that they're trying to get over. But she's an idiot and can't stop herself from.
Oh well, yeah, she's solipsistic. She can't help herself, but talk about herself. So she inadvertently undermined her own defamation lawsuit against content creator Smash JT through a significant misstep while she was on a live stream on the channel of the gentleman pictured here with her, David Jaffe. In the video, Mercante openly admitted to having engaged in cam work, which directly contradicts her legal claim that being labeled a sex worker or stripper was defamatory and false. So because Smash JT said that she was a sex worker or stripper, she claimed that was defamation. But when someone asked her, how did you get into the gaming industry? She replied, I suck dick. And she's talked openly about being a sex worker and doing cam girl stuff because she is a pro-sex feminist, and that means she has to say supportive things for that, even if it is going to come at the cost of her lawsuit.
It's the same shirt.
It's the same shirt, yes.
It's the same shirt. I saw that and I almost pissed myself. I was like, oh God, isn't that hilarious?
She doesn't have like a lot of stuff in her closet.
No. Well, she's got to fix her leaky roof, so
Yeah. So the incident, I'm sorry. In the video, Mercante openly admitted to having engaged in cam work, which directly contradicts her legal claim that being labeled a sex worker or stripper was defamatory, which is what caused her to write or create this defamation lawsuit against Smash JT for stating the thing that she stated. This admission was likely dealt a fatal blow to her case, as it provides clear evidence against her assertion of defamation, potentially leading to the collapse of her lawsuit. The incident has sparked considerable discussion online, with many viewing Mercante's actions as a pattern of self-sabotage that continues to damage her credibility and legal standing. The live stream where she made these admissions was watched by a relatively small audience, yet the implications are significant. Mercante's acknowledgement of cam work, combined with previous behaviors like deleting incriminating tweets, paints a picture of someone who might be their own worst enemy in legal battles. And it looks like if this comes up, and I think it might, Smash JT can't really lose this case unless the judge or the people involved are enormously biased. So she's going to lose. And Jaffe, by the way, is totally caping for her nonstop. It's the most pathetic, simpy behavior I've ever seen.
Right.
And I think it's a bit weird. In my opinion, I think it's just a bit weird.
Yeah, well, that 4-hour cattle cave, or cattle call, I suppose is the better way to say it, because it was just a gathering of the lol cows at the Sour Milk Dairy. The hypocrisy is right there in front of everybody to see, where Jaffe's sitting there, saying, well, I'd fuck the shit out of you, basically, and I know,
and I'm like, I was watching the stream live. I shared it out, and I was like, dude, what are you doing?
Right. And so he's sitting here saying all these lewd comments and this and that, and she's just laughing about it. So why is it okay for one person?
Because he supports her. Because he's on her side. That's all it is. Yeah, he's a good little male feminist doing her bidding.
But it totally undermines the point of her case that she's sensitive
totally does.
And I mean, it's like,
I mean, she'll turn on him too. Just wait. They always do. So he thinks he's safe, but he's gonna get something like all of that's going to come back to bite him in the ass. I promise you.
Well, technically they were, because at the conclusion of that one, they scheduled another live stream. I doubt that that's going to happen at this point in time. I don't see why they would continue.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Jaffe may double down because he did put out a video recently.
Perhaps, but if they do, it's only going to undermine her case all the further, because it's like, they can't help themselves. Like they got stoned out together on camera, and we're just sitting there just kind of having this weird kind of stream of consciousness kind of, just cringe off, it seemed. And, it completely decimated every point that she tried to make. You know, the only thing that I wish I'd done earlier this week is I need to get the money clip that Will put together, because that thing is
I
so
know, I
on
want
point.
that. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, obviously these people, and this has always been the case, by the way. Like ever since I've been doing was I'm involved with Gamergate 1, anyone who talked about these things that was going on, and they were like, you know, openly anti-feminist like I am, or critical of the woke or whatever it is, and they're doing it online in conversations with people, and anyone sends a super chat in, they immediately think, oh, this is what it is. It's about the money. That's why they misuse, and I'm going to emphasize this, misuse the word grifter to describe anyone who disagrees with them, while they themselves are literally trying to, like, well, I guess to be a grifter, you'd have to like promote something that you don't really believe in order to profit from it. And
Right.
that, I think that a lot of, you know, the sort of like progressive commentators are that, because they think this is a popular, you know, line to toe, and it will make them money. And they usually get approached by like freaking corporations and like, you know, Planned Parenthood and the Biden administration and the UN, and and various like Norwegian governments will send them millions of dollars. And yes, that happens. And then they'll call us grifters. They get paid by corporations to call us grifters.
Right.
I have
Right.
not been able to make that much money doing this. Not that it concerns me, because I'd rather have the conversation than anything else. So
Right. We are the
Yeah.
legitimate press in this day and age, which is kind of like the whole reason for, you know, the freedom of speech and freedom of expression that we all should have, which
Yeah.
this lawsuit was ultimately trying to undermine by saying that, you know, only top-down control state, you know, financed and backed publications should be the arbiters of truth and conversation, and even, you know, matters of speaking, you know. And this is, you know, this is a pervasive thing. And so I'm glad that ultimately this is the, you know, the person who they entrusted to kind of like bring this fuckery to existence, because it's all going to fall flat on its face, because they chose poorly in terms of the person that they were going to get behind and try to like be the tip of their spear to get this whole initiative through.
Yeah.
Can't really do that with
Jaffe
this.
can't. He's not going to be able to come to terms with this, because, you know, as it was shared here, Jaffe let his own daughter fall prey to groomers. I'm not surprised he'd sim for mercunti. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, like, he's already fallen into the queer theory trap and let his daughter identify as his son, and now he can't back out. Like, I mean, it's literally like, you know, sunken cost, right? The more you invest in a bad idea, the harder it is for you to accept that it was a bad idea. And
Right.
if you don't absolutely demolish your ego and pride, and you become completely humbled and say, I messed up really bad, and I wish I had never done this, then it's just going to get worse, and you're not going to be able to avoid the pain. It's going to come back to bite you in the ass. And I hope that his daughter doesn't do anything rash when she figures out that she actually was happier when she was a girl, and takes extreme measures, because Jaffe is going to have to figure out how to blame the world for that, which is what these people usually do, by the way. When
Right.
you tell them, you know, the suicide rate for trans individuals is 41%, whether they are affirmed or not, and it's probably got nothing to do with like society pushing them this way, but rather, you know, that lifestyle comes with a lot of problems, and they're probably not going to be happy. Case in point, the original case for transgenderism, which is John Money's experiments on these twin boys, that one of them had a flood circumcision. I don't know if you know the story. Do you know the story, John? Of
Vaguely.
John Money. So like, John Money was this guy who believed that, you know, gender is a social construct. He's one of the people who brought this up. And he these two boys, when they were born, they I believe they were twins. And one of them, they were getting circumcised, which, by the way, should not have happened anyway, because circumcision is genital mutilation and should not exist. And it doesn't even have a religious basis. It was like some guy named Kellogg that pushed it, who is not, you know, so when they tell you that it's some Christian thing, they're lying. It's not that. But anyway, one of them had his penis mutilated, and this guy, John Money, approached the parents and said, hey, you know, I bet that if we raise him as a girl, then he will like adapt to this because he believed that all of these things are socialized. So we'll socialize him as a girl, and then he will live as a girl, and then he'll be happy. And of course, the parents supported it because they thought, well, maybe that will help. We just want to, help our son or whatever.
Right.
And he did that, and it didn't work out. I mean, he made the twins do weird shit to each other that were sexual. He was doing weird sexual shit with them. He was putting them in dresses and everything like that. And what ended up happening was the trans girl committed suicide. And then like sometime later, even the brother committed suicide. So it just resulted in both of them dying. And I don't know, does Jeffy know this? Did he? Well, obviously he probably doesn't. You know why? Because these people won't tell you that. They won't tell you that this stuff leads to suicide most of the time. I mean, 40% of the time, right? So we have a whole generation, maybe 2 generations of children being raised on this crap from public schools. And some of them are deciding that they're the opposite sex and they're trying to live that way. And some of them are demanding surgeries and they're demanding the government pay for it, which is why Trump banned it from the military, because they were saying, oh, look at all the trans people in the military. No, they're going there to get the free surgeries because it's paid for by the state, your tax dollars, by the way. So that had to go. I'm telling you, there's going to be a reckoning. Okay. When what I mean is we're going to see a swath of suicides and also mass shootings. There's actually a trans, I know it's going to sound weird, but Andy No reported on a trans cult of like murderers, a trans cult of mass murderers that are basically like, just killing people like this because think about it. You've lost all meaning to live. You try to live. You're trying to live in a way that is antithetical to what you are. You're on these medications. You're getting surgeries done. I mean, you're messed up in the head. And I don't want this to be a bad thing, but Jaffe's daughter something's going to happen, and he's going to probably say this is because that you weren't tolerant enough because he's too invested in this, and it's going to cause him a lot of pain.
When you debase your own humanity, dehumanize yourself, then it's really not that much of a stretch to, kind of dehumanize other people, because like, it's kind of like the whole thing about like, you really shouldn't focus on like, relationships with other people until you can actually square away the relationship with yourself. It's one of those things where it's like, if you're completely off the ball, so to speak, no pun intended, about like your own, identity and just think that it's something that you just kind of pick off the rack one day, like it's a dress, and put that on and that's going to make things better and you'll feel oh so pretty. That doesn't take away from the fact that, deep down, you're actually like a dude, and not just like a dude, you are a dude that just, as they say, don't judge a book by its cover, because you can always change the sleeve, but it doesn't change the story inside. So it's just a bad ending that is being written, to continue the analogy.
Yep. What the F is on her bottom left eyelid? Oh, I don't know. I think has she been crying? Is that what this is?
No, she evidently, this was right after the Keeleys, as we affectionately call them. She took out her cunt pin off the side of her hair and was evidently, this is supposed to be makeup remover. But she took this picture knowing full well, like she knows to some degree, even subconsciously, maybe like she is opposed to herself, because she can't even stop herself from doing these things. And then she acts all like butthurt when like, people use compromising information that she puts out there freely into publicly consumed forums, that, like are available to, the public. And so they're open for public interpretation. And then she acts like, oh, someone got this from, I don't know how they got a hold of this. You put it out yourself. You're the leak, Alyssa. You're the one who's damaging your own, claims and all this kind of stuff. It begins and ends with you. especially in this instance. Like nobody's been a better case for the defense than Alyssa Mercante herself. Moolissa, as I've been calling her recently. Just another lol cow.
Yeah, just another lol cow. Speaking of lol cows, well, anyway, let me know what you guys think about this in the description. I have another one ad here. Yeah. So let me know what you guys think about this one in the description. So we're gonna get into another story. Here we go. This is who the hell is this guy? This is a game journalist that has attacked a content creator, Yellow Flash, for exposing leaked Slack messages from Activision Blizzard employees.
Oh no.
Excuse me.
Oh no.
These messages reveal discussions about diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, portraying some employees as more focused on ideological conformity than on game development. The journalist here, Francis, frames these leaks as an attack by far-right X-users rather than addressing the content of the messages, which suggests activism over meritocracy within the company. This narrative shift has been seen by some as an attempt to defend the employees' actions rather than critically examining the implications of such internal discussions. So we have Activision now. I mean, we knew that they were woke. I'm not, no question about that. I don't know if there's going to be any downstream consequences to Activision, but I suspect that they're already not really popular with people. Like when it comes to which gaming companies do you hate the most, Activision is a close second to EA. Sometimes it's higher. It's usually between those two. But at least
Ubisoft is almost not a game company now, so it's that
yeah, Ubisoft. I mean, yeah, exactly. They have definitely fallen.
Yeah.
Quite the way.
Total side note, what I think is hilarious about this, I know it's supposed to be trans rights on the shirt, but it having trans rig be the only thing that's visible, I think is just absolutely unintended comedy, but beautiful nonetheless.
Yeah. So yeah, what was I saying? Let's see. So we have this basically Francis is trying to frame this. I'm trying to look at the tweet here on Yellow Flash's. Here it is. So let me just open this up. Stephanie Peters says, can anyone in HR explain to me why we chose Workforce as our HR platform? As a former partner services employee and a current platform security threat investigator analyst for the company, I don't feel secure allowing my data on this platform. With the direction of the current political climate and platforms like Meta monopolizing citizen data, I'm genuinely concerned for the safety of our employees, especially our transgender and immigrants in America employees who have requested name changes through this system and have their visa status there. Given the speech Trump gave today and Elon's Nazi salute, I need something from the company that emphasizes that our employees are safe and what is being done about the protection of our data. And here is the analyst in question. She, her, they, them, dude. So just in case you guys wanted to know, pronouns in the bio, that tells you everything you need to know, obviously. And he was just sharing it out. And apparently that's not okay. You are not allowed to do that. And so just unacceptable, right? So let me see if I can so the journalists are basically coming after Yellow Flash and basically anybody associated with him. There is a really great video, if you're curious, that does a pretty good job of explaining TDS, in case you don't know. Put out by Mentis Wave, I think it was like the day before yesterday. And it comes in stages. And I think that people like these journalists and like David Jaffe, they're at the stage now where they've so invested in this idea that not only is Trump Hitler, but anyone who is not aggressively against him is also like supportive of, like Germans from the 1930s. Like,
I guess we're the Gestapo.
Completely and there's no changing their mind. There would have to be so much suffering before they say, maybe I was wrong. I don't think it's going to happen for a lot of these people, unfortunately. So, but you know what? It's not my problem. all I have to say about that is I don't really care, Margaret. I don't really care. So
Indeed.
all right. Anyway, do you have any thoughts on the Yellow Flash thing? This Blizzard employee? I mean,
it's just kind of par for the course where we are at this point in time. I mean, unfortunately, this carousel of bullshit will continue to spin, and there'll be like another thing like this next week by somebody else who goes and puts out publicly consumable information on public platforms, that are done for the purpose of engagement and interaction. Engagement works in the positive and the negative. You're not able to control the way people react or respond to you. The only thing you can have any modicum of control over in your life is the way that you react or respond to things. And so, don't put things out there that you don't want people to make hay of and either support or detract. And and if that is what you're wanting, keep that shit private, because we all have a right to privacy. I know we forget that in these modern times, but you have the discretion to make things publicly available or not. And, if you're making that stuff available for mass consumption, then you can't really sit here and say, oh, pity me, how did they get a hold of this? You put it out. You did it.
Yep.
You did the thing. So, either just keep your affairs private and with your close-knit circle of friends and whatever like that, to where if somebody actually goes digging into you and does something that actually seems like exploitative and kind of harassing, then you might actually have a basis for some of this stuff. But all these things that we ultimately end up talking about are always coming from the person who is, perpetrating the violence on themselves, basically, so to speak, because they go and they put it out there like bait. And so when they actually get somebody to bite on the line, they sit here and say, oh, something bit me. It's like, well, yeah, that's what you did this for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, just let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments as well. I got the next one. This will be the last story, and then we can do a little cake. If the show ends a bit early, then that's okay with me. I like to get it under an hour and a half. Well, about an hour and a half, but I usually am ready to go for 2 hours if that's what it takes. Yeah. But I think we're kind of flying through them, so not bad. Yeah. And I mean, there's not much you can say when you're winning, because I think we are. I think we're winning. It's really easy. Just don't spend your money. David Jaffe did that stream with Alyssa Mercante for 4 hours, and he's still making videos. And I'm gonna tell you, it's just cope, guys. They're just coping. Yep. What can they possibly say? He just keeps saying, well, I thought that Dragon Age of Veilguard has a good story. I think you guys are missing out on good story. Don't you guys want to play good video games? And we're like, we are playing video games that are good. It's just not the one you're recommending, because we have good taste. You can't shame us into buying shit.
Yeah. And there's this great thing called backlogs of all these games the last 20, 30 years that none of us, have actually even necessarily had the time, because there was always quality titles coming out.
Yeah, this is it's a golden opportunity to go back to your backlog. Definitely. Yeah.
And so now all those things we invested in that were someday I'll play this, and never knowing when that someday would be. That someday is now.
All right, so next we're going to be talking about the Real Game Awards, and specifically a little thing that happened as a result of it that I thought was an opportunity for me to make a point about something. So the Real Game Awards, in case you guys don't know, is an event that was set up by the guys over at Side Scrollers, Stuttering Craig. And the purpose of that was to basically say, well, gamers are not getting their personal views represented by the Game Awards, the Jeff Keighley, Dorito Pope stuff, right? Yeah. Yep. And the reason for that is obviously that there's lots of ad space being bought up, and they're trying to make it into the Oscars. Right. And it's really cringe, right? And I haven't watched a Game Awards show in years. But I understand that there's a desire to move away from that. So Stuttering Craig started something called the Real Game Awards, where he basically just takes the votes from the fans and I guess uses that to award games. Again, I didn't watch it just because I'm too busy with other things to do that. But The aim of this was to celebrate gaming culture in a more authentic, community-driven manner, and it stirred some controversy among some game developers because, like, what they decide wins isn't necessarily like they're not in contact with the developers. So if they say, "Oh, we thought whatever, like this game was game of the year," it's not like the game devs are like in the building getting an award. It's more like they're just saying we like this game, right?
Right.
So these developers expressed frustration over being featured in the awards, not because they were against the event's grassroots approach, but due to fears of backlash from what some perceive as the woke brigade within the gaming community. This backlash was fueled by accusations that the event was a political platform rather than a celebration of games, leading to developers feeling pressured to distance themselves from the awards to avoid being canceled or associated with controversial narratives. So here's the one example that stood out for most people was this message sent out by, I don't know who this is, the name, it's Bolster, @Bolster. And they have a trans flag in their bio and a BLM tag and an ACAB, which is all cops are bastards, and a Palestine flag. So, they got their opinions right there in the name. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, so honored to have won the coveted anti-woke game awards, best racing game category. As a trans woman, it's so comforting to see them prioritize diversity, equality, and inclusion. To celebrate, I'm going to have gay sex with my faggot transgender dog girl. So, okay, weird, right? So what's going on here? This is a passive aggressive, own that according to Bolster here. What they are presuming is the people at the Game Awards, Stuttering Craig and the people who work on that, they're presuming that these people are anti-trans and like bigots and all this terrible stuff. And so they think that they're like, it's a surprise twist. Did you know that I was also a furry troon? Well, I guess I'll just accept the award. And that was supposed to bother Stuttering Craig and the people who voted for the game. And this is that's all this is. Okay. They're not really happy about it. They're more like angry about it, but they're saying, I have an opportunity here to dunk on the chuds. And so Stuttering Craig had this response. He just replied to her and said, or them or whatever, congrats, you'll notice that literally no one cared that you're trans, literally no one. The audience cared that you made a good game. That's all people want. Our show is not anti-woke. It's simply meant to be an alternative to the access media / industry show. Enjoy your gay sex. Now, again, this is like an attempt for Craig to say, well, look, man, I'm not taking your identity very seriously. This is me being completely neutral. Our thing isn't anti-woke, right?
Right.
And that was the counter that John, I want to get your thoughts before I give mine.
Sure.
Because I think Craig is making a mistake. So.
Right. Well, in this point, I can like at least appreciate what he's saying in that, this is ultimately about gameplay. And, like what we mentioned earlier, if you make quality games, I give two shits if you cut your dick off or go and like get your tits cut off or whatever. That's like, again, rights to privacy. Just keep it to yourself. I don't really care. But when you go and like use this as like a point to just kind of like, make this about your ideology and like your activism, because someone wanted to pay you a compliment, which is ultimately like the thing that these people say that they're striving for is I just want to be treated normally. All right, well, take the award and like go on with yourself, and like be happy about it. Awesome. But instead it's like, how dare you? How dare you go and judge me on the merits of my work? Don't you understand that we're supposed to be enemies here? And it's like, all right, I guess cool. And I think that's about like the best response you could have to something like this, because it's at least kind of responding to somebody who was getting very reactionary and just kind of saying, much like the meme, I really don't care, Margaret, like it's like, all right, cool. Glad you're all up in a tizzy about this. The whole concept of these awards is that, they're based on the concept of who made something that was fun and like actually worth a gamer's time, not something that was promoted through HR and marketing directives and a whole bunch of sponsorship ads and all this kind of stuff. I myself, I didn't watch the real Game Awards because I'm just not as we know, like from the previous conversation we had about the Gamer Awards months ago, and the whole structuring of award shows in general, I really don't go for any of them. I find that this is like a slow burn to the same destination ultimately, unfortunately. And, the more time something becomes kind of invested in, and more it becomes kind of like, the thing, like, because when you look at, say, the Keeleys, from when it first started to what it evolved into, it certainly has become more overly produced and just kind of like, about like being seen at the awards and all the stupid advertisements that they're going to have on, rather than actually, celebrating gaming culture. And I would, quite honestly, I think if anybody wants to see some actual legitimate, interesting awards from this past calendar year, you should go to Jay Viper's channel and check out the Jay Awards that he did. And it's actually his Jay Awards coverage that he did is just him for an hour and a half going through. He gave out 13 awards, and it's just him, just a guy, just basically saying, hey, these are the games I like, and this is, like the stuff that, like I would just go and kind of, make a recommendation for, because it's my own opinion, and ultimately that's all award show is, it's just opinions. And that's why I really don't pay attention to them for the most part, because I can form my own opinions and I can do my own research and I can do all this kind of stuff. And I don't find just because something has GOTY emblazoned across the front of the packaging or anything like that, like the Game of the Year edition, shit. What does that do for like the actual game? Like, if it was already quality, it was already quality. And unfortunately, a lot of award shows nowadays they give out awards specifically for things that don't have their own merits. And so they go and try to slap some kind of award on it that they can lean to and say, oh, look at this. This is valid. You should check this out because, it's got all this like hype behind it. I don't give two shits about hype. I make my own decisions.
Yeah, and I'll also say that this is kind of what happens with the purpose of award shows is generally to like try to like, drum up sales for whatever product judges decide is like the good product, right? This is what happened with the Grammys. This is what happened with film, like the Oscars and the Academy Award. Well, the Academy Awards is the Oscars. And I think that inevitably will be the case with games, I guess, unless somehow it remains sort of democratically decided on. But even then, popular opinion doesn't necessarily mean it's good, right?
Right.
But
right.
I'm not against him providing an alternative at all. I don't really care. But what I want to point out, though, is that when this person said this snarky comment, they're telling you the truth about themselves, which is that for these people, it's always political. Even if you're not trying to be political, the personal is political. This is what I've been trying to say. Like guys like Stuttering Craig and others, they keep saying that they want to get away from the politics of this stuff. And I get it. You just want to escape. But you have to understand the people you're dealing with here, they make it political no matter whether you want it to be or not. It's going to be because they're going to make it that way. And it's going to be in your face. And so you might as well, like when you say, well, I didn't set out to make an anti-woke contest. Well, actually, because it wasn't woke, it is anti-woke. Whether you agree or not, you decided you were going to do something based on merit. Guess what? Meritocracy is anti-woke. It is in its very nature. It's like when people say, we're going to eliminate DEI programs. And then they get mad about that and they're saying, oh, you're discriminating. No, DEI is discrimination. It's built into it, right? So if you say, I'm not going to put wokeness in something, or I'm not going to let the politics of the day influence something or whatever, these people, that action is anti-woke. Even if you, so that's what I'm saying. Like, these people make it political all the time. So you might I'm not saying you have to become political, but you might as well accept that they're going to do this, and you might as well respond accordingly, because essentially what they are saying is the only correct answer is the answer that agrees with them, which is inherently political. And if you don't agree with them, you are still being political to them, and you might as well embrace it. So you might as well just go with it, because they're going to do it anyway. So
they can't leave the echo chamber of their own mind, unfortunately.
No, and this person has told you what they think of you. So you might as well take that into account if you are thinking about picking up the game that won this award. It already makes it, in my opinion, it already like makes it illegitimate. Like I'm like, nope. Tranny flag, Palestine, all, you know, Black Lives Matter, all that. And then on top of that, they basically like made offhanded comment. I don't give a shit about your game. But I will show you guys what the game is. So the game that won, that person developed, is called Nightmare Kart. And it looks like it zoomed through the gothic streets in this horror-themed vehicular combat racing game. So it's like a vehicular Mario Kart that's in a gothic setting. We'll take a look at this game trailer so you guys can see what it looks like. Actually, yeah, because there's like a lantern on it. And I'm a Bloodborne fan, but again, oh, maybe not. Maybe they couldn't get the license, so they had to change it. But it looks like that's what it's borrowing from.
Right.
Like Maria and the Wheel.
You must be the new participant.
Gehrman.
You must be confused, but try not to think too hard about all this.
Mikolash. They had to change the names because they couldn't get the
actual licensing.
But it is the Bloodborne setting, which is a good idea.
Nightmare Kart.
That's probably why it won. Like I could see that, you know. And the game is free, so. But yeah, this person kind of sabotaged themselves. Like that, it would have been nice if you'd have just taken the award gracefully, but because this person presumed that Stuttering Craig and all the people involved with the Real Game Awards hated her guts, their guts, whoever the fuck this is, they felt the need to retaliate in some passive-aggressive, bitch-made way. And now I mean, why would you even bother to download this game? So,
Right.
But anyway, that's that. Just want to point out, these people always make it political because it's their whole existence. Like, think about it. You know, all they do is post online. They're terminally online people. They can't really essentially like envision a scenario where their point of view is wrong, and so they just double down constantly.
Right. They're products of the activism that they promote, you know, and because they've never actually been able to just live and breathe for themselves and have a day of just like their own interests. They're like I say, the echo chamber of their own mind, and it's just so predominantly in everything that they say, think, and do that they never even take a vacation from themselves, so to speak. You know, it's like I have certain thoughts and feelings that a lot of people don't necessarily agree with, and you know, do I talk about it from time to time? Sure, from time to time, but it's not like, you know, the focus of my everything. You know, like sometimes I just have to, like, you know, just hang out and just kind of be cool because, like, you know, it's like, what point does it make to sit here and try to make every situation about me? Because you know what, for the most part, the world goes on a spinning, whether I leave this room or not, you know, and I just do my own thing, it's still doing its own thing. And so if I want to be engaged with the thing that's wider than my perspective or my you know, experience, then I kind of have to be a little bit more open and accepting and things like that. And so, like, maybe a lot of these people who, you know, are so led by their activism and their ideology might actually be a little bit more accepted if they were a little bit more accepting themselves, you know? And so that's kind of the crux of it. It's like, just shut yourself off for a minute. Try not to make every little thing that you encounter about your stupid ideologies. No one cares.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So we got some okay, so we're getting close to the end of the game here. And again, I just want to clarify, I don't know if Lavistro was directing this at me. I'll read the comment and I'll just give my thoughts on. But he says, I disagree. If someone believes I'm pink, does that make me pink? And should I embrace it? No, it could make people accuse me of grifting by people who are pink. I'm not sure what that means, but what I'll say is this, okay? What we have to come to terms with is the fact that we are neutral. You know, if you think of yourself as politically moderate or neutral, or you don't want to talk about it, The problem is that the people we're dealing with, these woke scolds, these gay race communists, these globo homos, they believe that there are two positions, their position and the evil Hitler position. No matter what your position is, if it's not their position, you are the evils to them, okay? Now, does this mean you have to embrace it? No. But you have to understand that you cannot, they will not let you be a neutral actor. And I think you shouldn't be, because these people have to go. They have to go as in, they have to lose their livelihoods, they have to lose their influence, they have to go get regular jobs, they have to go detransition, they have to go like get their tattoos removed and like start a business and maybe start a family. They have to get out of this crazy ass progressive mindset. And the only way that's going to happen is if the winds are, you know, shifted in such a way that they realize they're not the resistance. They're just annoying. Right. And that's what they have to realize. So,
well, it's beta bitch made behavior.
Exactly. Gabriel says, to those that believe with us or against us, the side has been picked for you. Exactly. And we just have to get that. Like, it's okay. It's okay. I don't care. Right. But I'm on the side of normal. And that is not the side they like, because they're queer activists. And if you understand queer theory, which is not gay, queer theory is the inversion of everything normal. And so that's what they push for. And if you like normal, then you are their enemy. That's it. So we have to understand that and come to terms with it. Okay. So if you guys want, if there's any game trailers you want us to look at, let me know. But I thought we would, since we just looked at Nightmare Car, I thought we'd look at Knight's Path, because I did, Knight's Path, which is the one I just reviewed, or not reviewed, but I spoke to these guys. Let me show. You guys see it when I showed the that cart thing, or not? Game. I can't remember. Did you see it on the screen?
I believe I did. I mean, I definitely watched it through our connection, but I think it should work.
All right.
I did just get a note about a baking story that we'll probably go a little bit more in depth on tomorrow on Reality Based about Tokyo Extreme Racer. Yeah, they put out a new version.
Right, I heard about that too. Somebody messaged me about that. Yeah.
So I am from now henceforth, I shall be the problematic perfect guy rather than the problematic white guy, because evidently, you know, being white is unacceptable in any way, shape, or form. So you know,
okay, yeah. So you guys did see it. I couldn't remember if I shared the tab or not. So all right. So this is Knight's Path, the tournament. This one is very early days. They basically just have it's almost like just like a dipping your toes into the combat system. But according to the developers behind it, they have like very ambitious goals. And I think this could replace Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So, you know, just think of it that way. It may not be out before Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is out, but it is going to be an alternative. And I think you should support these guys. But look at the combat system and you tell me what you think. So let's play it.
I challenge you to a duel.
All right, let's show them the true art of combat.
Ouch.
Greetings, stranger. Are you here to sign up for the tournament?
Yes, I am, my lord.
Look at that boy over there, flailing around like a drunkard.
So like I said, this is very early on.
First,
but you can download this demo and try it out. There's like different expertise levels and stances, as you can see.
Greetings, traveler. Welcome to my humble shop. Look
Ron's
around.
not saying anything.
Only the finest
Oh,
of
I see what
weapons
you're
and
saying.
armor.
No, the sound is making his mouth move, but he's not saying anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I can just sit here and be quiet.
So the game has parries, dodges, counters, uses different kinds of weapons, but the final game is going to be like an RPG with an open world, and there's going to be some like it's like low fantasy, so a little bit of magic, you know. And there will be human enemies, but also non-human ones as well.
No.
So
All right, I will teach you humility.
Not this time. This time I will be the teacher.
I played the demo. I did not get to this guy. I think he's like one of the later duels. It's basically knights dueling in this particular demo.
Right.
And it borrows from games like
I yield.
there's like this game that was very popular in Germany. I can't remember the name of it now.
Now Ulrich
And
stands before an immense
Sekiro's
challenge.
combat
He's
system
about
and
to
things like
engage in
that.
battle with our revered champion. This knight is an unbeaten force, admired far and wide for his unmatched prowess in combat. For Ulrich, this is not just another duel. It's an attempt to conquer the unconquerable.
So anyway, that's Knight's Path again. Yeah, it looks interesting, right? Okay, so somebody said Butcher's Creek. Let me just drop that in there really quick. For Honor is kind of, but I thought of that too when I saw it, but it's not quite that. It's a German game. It's called Gothic. There's a game called Gothic. So I think that's the one. And he said it was very popular in Germany and had like a deep combat system. So this is Butcher's Creek.
Right?
What were we gonna say?
Oh, I was going to say, as an aside, I see Levistro's got a comment in the chat that I would say that that's kind of where my leanings are. Is that, you know, if you want to bring it up on
Sides
screen.
haven't been picked for me. It just means they see me as an enemy. If I don't agree with the other tribe, doesn't make me that tribe either. I stand on my own and agree with other. I understand that, but you don't. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what you decide you associate with. They're going to put you in that camp, and it's okay. I'm not telling you to pick a side. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you they have done that. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not telling you where you are. You can be super Mr. Individual. I think for myself, I get it. I do that too, but they don't care about that.
Right,
Like,
right. They want to
like,
lump us all together as the
look,
others. We're the ones being othered in this situation by the people who call themselves the ones that are victimized.
This is why I don't really like calling it a culture war, because a war implies there are two armies facing off on a battlefield. That's not what this is. There's one group of people, these people, the gay race communists, and then there's everybody else that's just trying to go about their business. And the people who are extremely passive in the everybody else section, they actually permit these people to like continue to gain ground. And I'm not asking you to choose a side. I'm asking you to stand in their way. That's it.
Right.
You don't have to be, you don't have to be my friend. You just have to like help me understand that those people are the enemies of society. They're the enemies of civilization.
Because I myself would agree to this to a certain extent, and that, you know, like my whole life that I had in Seattle was completely undermined by COVID hell world and all this kind of shit. And because I didn't go along with what the new NPC download was, I'm tantamount to being like, oh, you're just another one of those maggots over there and all this kind of stuff. It's like, well, I don't necessarily think that, but, you know, I think I'd much rather have a conversation with somebody who openly, you know, disagrees with me than tries to subversively, you know, make me exactly like them and get me into the hive mind virus that, you know, eliminates all my capacity to actually just think for myself, you know, and that doesn't mean that I'm, you know, I have like, you know, a Make America Great Again hat or anything like that here or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but again, that's not the MAGA
to
crowd
them,
is not the other side.
Right.
It is to them, yes, but
that's exactly, and so that is why I find myself now kind of in this wider MAGA community as I see it. Like, Make America Great Again is not necessarily something political at this point in time. It just kind of means, hey, can I just live my own life and kind of be like, you know, like a sovereign to my own, you know, choices and things like that. So, you know, it's not about like, you know, having to be, you know, either extreme of the dualities, you know, because I find the extremes of the dualities are, you know, in many ways, you know, very similar yet different, you know, like they're not necessarily better or worse than the other. They're just different. And so a lot of people that are kind of like, you know, not in any of those extreme polar opposites, are just kind of getting taken along for the ride by these two warring factions that are very minuscule in the wider sense, but they generally tend to conflate that if you're not everything that I am, then you have to be everything that I'm not. And so that's why we have like the ultra woke ideology and like this ultra crusader ideology, both just, like they all have like, they all end up with clown makeup on their face, and they can't see past the haze of their own red clown nose that's just shining away, realizing that they're the ones that are the joke,
Yeah.
and,
Right.
and the rest of us are just sitting here trying to just be people.
Yeah. I get that.
So.
Anyway, let's. This is the Butcher's Path. Let's watch some more of this game.
Yeah.
Foot.
Indeed. Mighty Foot engaged.
Hope the foot has a cooldown. It seems kind of overpowered.
It's a very Duke Nukem approach to things.
Yeah. All right. First person melee horror game where you use rusty tools to brutalize a gang of serial torturers in the remote Appalachian forest. Oh, the Appalachian thing. The player character is naked for most of the game. Oh, so it's basically the what was that movie with Nicolas Cage, Mandy, the Mandy video game? Mm-hmm. So, okay. Any other? Well, if you guys come up with anything on, send me a super chat and I'll drop it in and we'll take a look at it. In the meantime, though, we're gonna look at some. Let's look at some sales numbers. So since we did talk about Warner Brothers a bit, we're gonna start with Multiverses, and yeah, it's not doing what 557 players, huh? Yeah, it's definitely on the way out. It peaked at 153, but that was like 2 years ago. So they kind of left this going for a while. And that's the thing. The game's been around for like 3 years or 2 years and some change.
Yeah. Let's see.
And here's
July
the thing.
2022. Yeah.
There have been like very little in terms of like actual growth in the game. They've added a couple of levels, like stages, and a few characters, and some of the character choices were very strange, like Arya Stark. Like that's just weird as shit. Like you have to like know who your audience is and then make it like aimed at that, right? So if you're looking at, let's aim it at the millennials, then look at everything the millennials liked and then put that in the game and you'll do fine. If you want to aim it at the Zoomers, look at what the Zoomers are into and then put that in the game, whatever it is. And they didn't do that. I think that they cast their net too wide and they diluted it and they spent a lot of money on basically nothing. It wasn't rewarding, even though the game was free. And the microtransactions,
marketing synergy was the thing that drove this forward.
Yes, that's right. They are shutting it down, Robert Johnson. I covered that as the first story. That's why I'm looking at the numbers now. Again, it's dead.
It's a dead man walking. It will cease to be at the end of May. So
Norwegian says, Brian, could you check out Postal 2? I feel like I did already, like in another show. Or do you mean like play it? Or you mean like put up the trailer for it? All right. So anyway, that's Multiverses. What else has Warner Brothers put out lately? Well, they got Suicide Squad. So let's see. I understand that they like did some new update that basically made it to where none of the DC heroes died because they're all clones or something.
Mm-hmm.
Really stupid, by the way. Just a really stupid idea. 350 people are playing. Yeah, this game is dead. This game is dead. I don't know why they haven't, like, I guess they got to wait another year before they announce it, just like they did with Multiverses,
Right.
So
right.
Okay. So yeah, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, not so good.
I would imagine a lot of these live service games.
What's another live service game that I could look up? I don't know.
Well, I mean, we can always look and see how Helldivers is rebounding, but like I think a lot of things, these live service games, is that to get better rates on their server access, they basically contract a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And so you basically have the duration of that life cycle. And if it becomes profitable in that time, then they'll extend the service license. But if it doesn't, then it comes to the end of their contract term. That's it. It's over and it's out. It's done.
Oh. Well, Helldivers 2 is doing okay, 45,000. It's kind of like around the 50,000 or so, 55 to 45,000. Like that's where it wavers in right now, which is okay. It's certainly not what it was when it peaked, but I don't know. It's probably going to continue to swim around this sort of area, but not bad for, like I said, a live service game. I think that they do a pretty good job. And the other one is Marvel Rivals, right? So, how is that doing? So let's take a look. Marvel Rivals, and this is just on PC, I believe, 286,000 players. Yeah, it's still pretty huge. It's starting to chill out a little bit, but there is that. Another one is isn't the First Descendant live service game?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so the First
Feed the Ducks with
Descendant.
Lana. I need to send you that clip so we can integrate it into the show somewhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I've given it to everybody at this point in time.
So this one is it's like 10,000, so not as good as Helldivers. I think so. I did try to play this game for a while, and I don't know, it just got kind of repetitive. And one thing, I'm not a fan of looter shooters that much. Like I think there's a way to do it, and I think Borderlands kind of burned me out on those. And so I don't have as much excitement for them as I probably used to. Plus, in general, I would prefer to play these with friends. I think that's what makes it rewarding. So let's see. What else? Well, Dragon Age the Veilguard, we can look at that, is at 4,521. Is not good. Yeah, that's not a good.
Yeah, and when your all-time peak doesn't even get into six-figure, range for something that had, hundreds of millions of dollars minimum.
It didn't even. It peaked at 89. It never got into six figures.
Yep, and 3 months ago, this came out on Halloween, so this is the entire duration of the time frame that we're looking at.
How sad is that? And then we have Dustborn. I always like to go back and just see what's going on with Dustborn every so often. So there's eight people playing this.
I think that's one more than last week. So yay!
Oh, wow,
I think it was 7 last week, and the week before it was only 2. Yeah. So this is like the dozens of people that they played to. Oh wow, 12 people in the last 24 hours. Woo! They hit double digits, guys. I smell a resurgence, or maybe I just smell shit.
Yep. Oh man. So Starfield, we're gonna look at that right now. Is at 5,309. Again, this is very underwhelming. This is Bethesda, right? So let's see. That's predictable. And then Home World 3. Just out of curiosity. Oh god. Oh, that's bad. 73 people. 73. How about Star Wars Outlaws? I never looked up what Ubisoft is doing. So let's find out. There's another one that, that's not good. Yeah. 573 people in game. Oof. And it's been out since November, so like 3 months ago. That's not good.
Yeah, when the crux of your gameplay is built around the concept of stealth, and you go and utterly remove it because there's so many bugs that don't make the stealth work, then you effectively wasted everyone's time and effort and didn't even meet like your ultimate goals that you had set for yourself. This is a failure in every sense.
It is. So
I can't wait till they do the same thing for Assassin's Creed, to be quite honest.
Me neither. I can't wait to look at those numbers. Space Marine 2 is at 10,000, which is a lot less than it was, but I think it seems to be that a lot of these Warhammer 40K games, they come out and they like they're big for a bit, and then they slow down, and then you get like a small group of really dedicated fans that continue to play it. I could look at, like, for example, Dark Tide, which I never played, but I always wanted to, and see like if that, because that's been out for a while. It's kind of one of those horde shooters like Left 4 Dead. So yeah, there's
and I think that this game specifically was kind of more guided by its single player experience more so than
So once you're done with it, you're done with it, and it's kind of arcadey in its gameplay. Like there's definitely a co-op mode which I like, and I'm gonna try and play some of that in March, multiplayer March. So I'll do streams of Space Marine 2 and Left 4 Dead and stuff like that. So maybe Payday, because I have Payday 2 or something. I don't know if anybody would be interested in that, but Unknown 9 Awakening, if you guys remember that game. Anybody even remember that? So 15
it remains
people?
unknown and unplayed.
Oh, my God. Dude, that's bad. That's not good.
Yeah.
Watch. Oh, is there a new DLC coming? Because it did spike the last time there was DLC. It did spike last time. There was
all the way up to 285 people.
Yeah.
But that was 4 months ago at the start, because this also came out in October.
That even when it peaked, it was less than 300 people playing. How much did they spend on that? I slept through that one. Meanwhile, Black Myth Wukong is still pretty strong at 23,000, considering it's a single player game. So that's not bad.
And when you see like this kind of number, though, like the cool thing about this is like, all right, so we were just talking about 50,000 players for Helldivers 2, and this is 60,000. So I mean, like, these are strong numbers for games that have been out for a good close to like over 6 months. So I mean, this is not the bad territory to be in. If you can have tens of thousands of players, 6 months in, then that means that you actually have legs and longevity. And it may not be like, the thing that everybody's playing, but it means that they at least actually have a fan base. And this is something that you can, move forward on and actually make iterative sequels to and things like that. And this is also another game that is also largely narrative driven, to my understanding.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody asked me about Path of Exile 2. So Path of Exile 2 is doing pretty good. 172,000 people. Is this? It has co-op for up to 6 players. Wow, that sounds really cool to me. So yeah, I think that's all I can think of in terms of games I want to look at the numbers for. But I feel like there was a couple of other ones. I wanted to find out, because somebody mentioned Space Marine 2 DLC. I know that we don't know for sure if there is any, but I wonder if there's plans for it, because that if they don't release more like co-op missions, maps, it says that they have plans to release more stuff. But the thing is, we're not really getting a lot of noise about it. So there is something called McCragg's Chosen. I think that came out. I may have already seen that. McCragg's Chosen DLC is it came out in October.
Hey,
so it's been out.
I have one
something
new.
Okay,
I'm curious about RoboCop Rogue City. It's been out for
in terms of
for
the
a little
numbers?
over a year. Yeah, it's been out for a little bit over a year now. But it seems to kind of be one of those games that does have legs, and people actually kind of like are doing more with it.
227. It peaked at 4,000. It's not.
But this
this
was not a big release, though. To be
No.
quite honest, to begin with. But just the fact that, because this is also another game that is largely narrative based, but this is something that actually has good play mechanics. Actually, is true to the world space that it's written for and everything like that. Kind of like I consider this RoboCop 2.5. Because it kind of like it has a lot of the stuff that you dealt with in RoboCop 1 and RoboCop 2, which I watched a retrospective on that again last night on Red Letter Media from like a year ago, and so it's just kind of in my mind. But yeah, like this would have been the much better third movie that what we ultimately ended up getting. But yeah, this is definitely a quality game. That if you're just looking for
Yeah.
something that's got good play mechanics and actually kind of like has like that visceral kind of feel, and this is another game too that with enough support, you know, you can actually take a game that wasn't necessarily going to get more updates, but if you actually support games, then they will ultimately, you know, if it makes sense for the design team to say, hey, we're actually being rewarded, and based on the merit that this game yields, let's go ahead and add something to it. So this actually has like a new game plus mode now that they put into it. So where when you play through the game, you can play it through it again, but with all of your enhancement updates and everything like that. And so ultimately, your second time through, you can play like a completely ultimate form of RoboCop. And when you play through it in the new game plus mode, that is pure bliss. You know, it's yeah. So I would definitely recommend this game to anybody. It's this is probably like the last game that I legitimately paid for. And
Okay,
it's
so
from
the
2023.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I mean, it's on my wish list.
Yeah.
RoboCop. So I mean, it's just like waiting for, you know, an opportunity and time to play it. But it could be good. It's a good first person thing. So they did in December release a Dark Angels chapter pack for Space Marine 2. And there's plans to do 2 more like, you know, packs. But what I think should come with it is not because like mostly what was in this last one is like heraldry and armor and like, you know, aesthetic stuff, but not actual like, you know, levels. I think the first one they did was they did like a whole other co-op mission, which usually takes about 15 minutes, 20 minutes to play through. And that's significant because like it's made to be replayed, you know, and you have different classes to level up and all kinds of other stuff you can do. And they also released some weapons. And that's what I think this last pack didn't really have. It had some, like I said, cosmetic things and no new missions. So like if the developers of Space Marine 2 don't follow up on that and they maintain that enthusiasm, it's gonna collapse too. It's gonna fall by the wayside. And like many other, you know, Warhammer Games Workshop properties. So I'm rooting for them, but you know they gotta make the content. They can't slack. So anyway, I think Killing Floor 2 should be a good. Oh yeah, for multiplayer. Yeah, I have a few multiplayer things I want to play. But anyway, what were you gonna say, John?
Oh, I was just saying. I'm just looking at the time, saying let's.
Yeah, we should wrap it up here.
We're getting close to wrap up time here, I think.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. So, you just got Payday 2 for £2 flash sale, huh? Wow.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I'm pretty sure I have that. That's the one I have on Steam. But all right, we're gonna end the show there. Thanks, guys, for coming in, hanging out. Thank you, John, for spending time with me while I go through these stories.
Yes, it's a pleasure every weekend. If you are interested later, I will be doing back-end production on Scooby Pup's podcast. Her guest today is Ryan Roger Thay. That is if she continues to decide to go with it. She's got a touch of the flu, and it seemed kind of touch and go yesterday when I was talking to her, but I have not heard that she's postponing or canceling today's show. And other than that, Toasty with the Mosty will also be doing some live streaming today, so I will get involved with that either in progress after the end of Scooby Pup's podcast, or I will be over there on the panel along with her if Scooby does not end up doing her show today. So that's pretty much my agenda for the day later on. So just, you know, if you're interested, in keeping up to date with these things, as always, I would say join us on the FFS Discord, where we highlight, live streams with real-time tracking. And I've recently, due to, the wide level of criticism it received, decided to give everybody a little bit of a reprieve on all the notifications. And now I just have listings for the VOD content that do not notify you the moment that they come out, but I'm still doing live notifications for the live service model. But do also take into note, because we serve a wide-ranging amount of content creators, both large and small. Some of the smaller creators that have less than 500 subs have voiced their concern that they're not going to get the same level of promotion. So I am working on something for that to make sure that I'm able to at least give these people training wheels to where they can kind of get their feet under them. And, you know, once they can actually, you know, commit to running their own thing, then, you know, then they'll just be able to actually do the live service or live streams themselves. But until then, I will have some form of notification tracking for those people as well, just to kind of like try to balance the load for everybody and give it a little bit more capability. But other than that, I'll just be doing standard streaming stuff. I've got Will of the Fans early tomorrow morning, and then reality-based all at the normal times. And yeah, just, you know, all the stuff that I do throughout the week. I mean, it's easier to almost talk about the days than times that I'm not on the internet, which than all the times that I am.
Yeah.
And when I'm not streaming or helping someone else with their stream, you can find me generally through the Discord. So yeah, and other than that, I just say as I always do, safe travels ahead. A wonderful weekend going forward. Be awesome as always.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave me a comment, let me know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of The Week in Culture, and we'll talk to you guys in the next video. Long live Vivian.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people, and maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.